Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of Energy Matters. I'm Michael Hess, a new media specialist here at the Energy Department, and joining me today is Dr. Kathleen Hogan, Assistant Deputy Secretary for Energy Efficiency. Today we'll be discussing how the cost savings associated with industrial energy efficiency affects American companies and their global competitiveness. But before we start with the questions, Dr. Hogan, is there anything you'd like to say?
Sure. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're doing here at the Department of Energy. You know, we're working to develop energy efficiency initiatives that improve our economic competitiveness, create jobs, improve our energy security, lower costs, and reduce pollution. And today, we'll be specifically focusing on two of our major initiatives. One, the Better Buildings and Better Plants program, and the other, the Advanced Manufacturing Initiative. The first one, Better Buildings, Better Plants, is focused on boosting the competitiveness of companies really in the here and now. In this program, we're providing assistance to companies that commit to achieving a 25% improvement in their energy intensity over the next 10 years, if not earlier. In the other, the Advanced Manufacturing Initiative, we'll be working with organizations to address early-stage technical challenges with some innovative manufacturing processes and materials that have huge potential for the United States. And while we're still in the early stages of this program, it clearly has struck a chord with American businesses. In response to a $120 million solicitation we have open, we've received over 1,400 letters of interest representing over $4 billion in work. So we're looking forward to reviewing these proposals once they all come in and really working on some outstanding investments to grow American leadership in manufacturing technologies and in turn growing our GNP and jobs. So I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas and suggestions during today's live chat. So let's get started.
All right. Well, we've gotten a number of emails, Facebook status, or rather comments, and tweets as well. There's been a common theme here, actually. To paraphrase several questions, how important is this energy-efficient manufacturing and industrial technology to strengthening our economy?
Well, certainly that's a great place to get started today. You know, our manufacturing sector in the United States truly is a big part of what we do. It represents 12 million jobs. And it represents about 60% of our exports. So also then a big part of our GNP. So manufacturing is really critical to our economy. And what we want to be doing is continuing to boost its competitiveness, boost its leadership around the world so we can continue to strengthen our economic position. So really manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, and U.S. competitiveness really go hand in hand.
Great. And you know, that there are the processes that we're dealing with, but then there's also, the buildings. Right, and that's where we're coming into our second question, an actual two-part question from Mark on Facebook, who asks why there aren't tighter regulations right now for energy efficiency in commercial buildings. So first, what are the barriers to making commercial buildings more energy efficient? And second, what would make buildings more energy efficient? Buildings more energy efficient make our economy stronger?
Right. So the buildings area does have a lot of opportunity for energy efficiency improvements, and the questioner has really asked first about building codes. So building codes are something that we are doing across the country, and really the Department of Energy's role there is to do determinations around the energy savings that result from sort of new model energy codes that come to us through consensus stakeholder processes. So can those codes that the stakeholders are developing, could they be more stringent they can, and they do get more stringent over time. I think right now we're in the process of doing a code determination on a code that improves the commercial building energy efficiency for new construction by something in the neighborhood of 20 to 30%. So we will be seeing tighter codes for commercial buildings soon. Now, at the same time, why are we doing those codes? It is because we have sort of a disconnect in the marketplace where the people that sort of build the buildings typically aren't the people that are in the buildings, occupy them, and pay the energy bills. And that's, you know, a market failure, a market barrier, and the codes are there to help us build to the level that's cost effective, so when the building gets handed over to the owner or the tenants lease the building, they won't be paying a higher energy bill than they otherwise have to. But I did say in there that, you know, that we're building to a level that's cost effective, and that's truly what we want to keep doing, is finding the right level of the codes so that when you put the better technologies and the practices in the buildings, it really is a good payback for the whole sort of life cycle and system. So as we are looking forward to the upcoming increased stringency of the commercial code, again, it'll get more stringent, but it will also be in a cost-effective way as well. So we are looking forward to that happening and continuing to offer the type of assistance the Department of Energy can to assist people in getting to those levels, and, you know, the training and enforcement and all, so we can reap all those benefits.
Now, so right now you're talking a lot about the investments that the Energy Department has in programs and projects, which actually comes from Chris. He's asking that as well in an email, where we have so many programs. What accounts for manufacturers not using those, and what is our department doing to encourage those manufacturers to pursue energy efficiency more aggressively?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about energy efficiency in this country, and we talk about the low-hanging fruit. We talk about energy efficiency being sort of the lowest cost path to a clean energy future. And all those things are true. And I guess the other thing we hear is we've been talking about energy efficiency for a while, and a lot of that low-hanging fruit is still there. So why is it still there? Well, you know, because all those things are true. Energy efficiency is low cost, it's the low-hanging fruit, and indeed much of it is still there. And it is because there are a variety of market barriers in you know, just across the economy, whether it's in our industrial facilities, in our companies, in our buildings, that we really have to get together to address. When you look at industrial companies, some of the issues there are just that the efficiency is in enough different places across the facilities that it's a little bit hard to get organized in a way that you're routinely going out there and finding the energy efficiency opportunities, making the small investments that need to be made, and then reaping those benefits. One of the things we have found in working with lots of companies across the country is that if we can work with the executive suite in those organizations, so that the executives truly understand the opportunities that are there, and the sort of the path to implement sort of energy management throughout their organization, and will set energy efficiency goals for the organization, you can really engage the whole culture of the organization in achieving those savings and delivering the benefits to the organization. But it is still interesting, as you look across the country at this point in time, that there are still many, many companies that haven't really established an energy savings target for their organization. Many have, and leading organizations, and many of them we're working with through the Better Buildings, Better Plants program, but there are many others who haven't. And I think many of them still don't quite understand the benefits that are there to be had include lower costs and increased competitiveness, as well as other benefits in terms of lower pollution and increased energy security. So there's a little bit of education we have to keep doing. There's working with the leaders to keep showing the pathway and the savings that can be achieved, and that's really one of the reasons we're very excited about what we're now doing with Better Buildings, Better Plants, because I think those leaders will really help show the way for many of the others that energy efficiency just offers great bang for the buck.
So there's these new programs, and we were just asked in an email, and I think this might require a little bit of background, but why can't the private sector produce on its own the kind of technological advances that your office is supporting through your R&D efforts? And I believe he's referring to the American Manufacturing Partnership's Innovative Manufacturing Initiative and the Grand Portfolio Challenge.
Sure. Well, certainly the Department of Energy is involved in a whole variety of efforts in energy efficiency, from research and development to engaging with industry and others to improve the efficiency of their organizations and facilities in the here and the now. This question is sort of going up into that R&D space. And we get this question a lot. What is it you are really doing that changes the path that we're on as a country with energy efficiency? And we've been doing this work now for quite a while, so let me just speak to some of that. As we work with companies, we do see that they have to wrestle with fairly complex technical challenges as they're bringing a new product or a new material to the marketplace. And some of those technical challenges can be complex enough that it really, there is no totally clear technical answer at that point in time, and it's a fair amount of research to go and get the answers to those questions. And if that research costs enough, the company just won't take it on. So what we have offered over and over is cost sharing for those projects to help those organizations get over that cost hurdle and get to the point where they can then see a clear path to commercialization, at which point you need lesser resources from the federal government. So we've put together, I believe, a very thoughtful approach to engaging with industry as they want to innovate in terms of the type of cost share we will provide based on sort of the complexities and the stage of the research the project is in, and then we offer less of that those resources as that product matures. So I think we are truly in a good place there.
So in a similar vein, but actually almost on a personal level for you as well, you've had a lot of experience with combined heat and power and corporate partnerships here and at the EPA, which that was 10 years, is that accurate?
Or more.
EPA. So we got through an email asking, since you have had EPA experience and now are at the Energy Department, could you address the overlap in energy efficiency efforts between the EPA and the Department of Energy? Sure.
So, yeah, I've now been at the Department of Energy for 2 years and been at the EPA for many years prior to that. And I would say that the work of the EPA and DOE actually doesn't overlap. I think it's very complementary. And I think it's one of the things I've been focused on since I've been here is to see that the agencies' work really does complement each other. We now sit down, at least on an annual basis, to develop a joint work plan across our energy efficiency efforts, and that's really just the start as we coordinate much more actively as the year progresses. So I think we're here to leverage what it is that the EPA has developed and then to play the role that the Department of Energy can across the suite of programs and projects that are really our strength and our core capabilities.
So our next email is associated with kind of a higher level of economic expansion in association with energy efficiency, and it's coming from Robert, who in his email he opines that strong economic expansion and fuller employment are associated with energy and lower costs and lower consumption of energy. And he asks you, are there any examples of or periods in U.S. history where a policy of greater energy efficiency combined with the actual efforts at energy conservation spurs economic expansion and strong job creation?
Certainly an interesting question. I think if we just look back over the last, 20, 30 years or so, and really tally up how much energy efficiency has occurred in this country, we'll see that energy efficiency is probably the thing that we've potentially used the most of relative to other fuels. Energy efficiency is really playing a tremendous role in terms of where we are now in energy per GDP, as an example. So I would say that there is pretty good information that energy efficiency is part and parcel with having sort of us being in a relatively good place as you look at where we are over the last 20 to 30 years. But I think where we are now is really needing to look to the future and chart what we need to do to deal with all of the challenges that we see before us. And as we look at those challenges, it includes being economically competitive, building jobs, improved energy security. And I think we don't have to look too far to see that energy efficiency is, particularly when you roll in that energy efficiency truly is low cost, that it is just a critical part of what we need to do going forward.
So we've been talking more at the higher level, and just seeing here that there have been a lot of specific questions that are coming in, specifically from Jennifer via email regarding combined heat and power. And hers is what can be done at the Energy Department and elsewhere in the federal government to help jumpstart investments in combined heat and power so that we can save facilities money, increase manufacturing competitiveness, and reduce emissions. And could you actually start off initially, before answering this question, explaining exactly what is combined heat and power to a more general audience here?
Okay, so combined heat and power. So let's start with the fact that when we generate electricity in this country, in the big power plants where we do so, and the electricity flows through the transmission and distribution lines to our homes, when we generate that electricity, typically we're pulling out about 1/3 of the energy content of the fuel, and we lose the other 2/3 of the content in the conversion, really through lost heat. And what the concept is between combined heat and power is you capture a lot of that heat and use it on site. So a lot of combined heat and power will take place at the facility. You'll generate the electricity, you'll use the electricity in the facility, but you will capture the heat that is the conversion loss and put it to work for you, again, either in terms of more electricity or taking the heat off and putting it into your process needs. And the really effective combined heat and power technologies are ones that are matched to the process demands within a facility. And what's interesting is we're now seeing conversion efficiencies sort of at the high end in the 80% or so. So compare that to 33%. Those are huge efficiency gains to be had by the effective use of combined heat and power. So we're very excited about what combined heat and power can do in this country. And DOE's been invested in combined heat and power with companies across the country in even improving the technology even further, as well as then going out and doing outreach with industrial facilities about how those technologies can help them improve their competitiveness and reduce their costs. And I think, if you can spare me another moment, what we're doing in the technology area is really quite exciting based on what we're talking about here today. I mean, we've been working with Capstone around microturbines, Caterpillar around larger reciprocating engines, and in each case, due to some of the R&D work that we've helped fund, those companies are leaders in the technologies that they were working on and have now been selling a fair number of these advanced technologies, a lot of it going overseas, really making the U.S. be a world leader in this space and having a strong presence with U.S. jobs. So really just a great story there for combined heat and power, and I think that'll grow to an even greater story as we look at where we are now with lower gas prices, which really makes combined heat and power a very attractive option to our industrial facilities across the country.
Right. So I think we're going to have time for maybe one or two more questions, waiting for clarification from somebody on Twitter here. And then the next question, and this is, we're going back broad, in defining advanced manufacturing and the role it plays towards a clean energy economy. I kind of paraphrased there, but what role does advanced manufacturing play in the clean energy economy?
So advanced manufacturing is really critical to a clean energy economy. So what do we think a clean energy economy is? I think it's one where the U.S. is highly competitive, we have improved energy security, we have strong jobs, and we have low costs. So advanced manufacturing is just critical to all of that. And if we just sort of think of the statistics again of our manufacturing base, you know, we have 12 million jobs. It's contributing 10% or so to our GNP, and it's also a big part of our national exports. So if we want to meet all of what we think a clean, robust energy economy is, improving our innovation and our leadership in the manufacturing space so that our manufacturing sector continues to compete and lead, they really are part and parcel, the same thing.
Great. So it's just going to be one last question here, and this is from Icarus Factor on Twitter. Any efforts to make LED lighting cheaper, since it's the lowest power use compared to the other types of lights? And can we put that, based on this industrial energy efficiency context, commercially and industrially, LED lights?
Yeah, so we have a robust solid-state lighting research program as well. And we continue to work on improving the efficiency or efficacy, as we call it with lighting, and we continue to work on driving down the costs of solid-state lighting. I think right now is a very exciting time for solid-state lighting. It's demonstrating capabilities that are sort of new to people, particularly with its long life and its very nice quality of lighting. So it's going to be exciting to watch that innovation, and we'll be working to integrate that into the partners that we're working with industrially, commercially. I guess one thing I would like to call out is a recent prize that we awarded for solid-state lighting. We called it the L Prize, and it's a bulb, the replacement for the 60-watt bulb that Philips actually won in showcasing just a very high-performance solid-state lighting alternative. And we'll be looking to watch the costs for that come down. And I think, as the questioner was maybe leading me to, I think this is exciting for where technology is going in this country. Just brand new, innovative approaches that do what it is we need, lighting, for fractions of the energy input, solid-state lighting using about a quarter of the traditional incandescent. So it's just a great indication of what we can do with technology to drive down the energy we need to get the services we all want, which is the essence of efficiency, and really increase our competitiveness, increase our energy security, and build jobs at the same time.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and also for all of your questions submitted before or live. We'll have a video of this broadcast available tomorrow on energy.gov. Please tune in again to the next Energy Matters.
And thank you. I'd like to express my thanks as well. Thank you for joining us today and all of your good questions. Look forward to working with you in the future.